Hi everyone! In the heart of Banff National Park, we are visiting one of the most beautiful and famous lakes in Canada, Lake Louise. This lake is famous for its unbelievable turquoise-blue color, the surrounding mountains, the glacier view at the far end, and the iconic Fairmont Château Lake Louise sitting beside the shore. In this walking tour, we'll enjoy the lakeshore, the mountain scenery, the hotel area, and the peaceful trail around the lake. And along the way, I'll also share some very important tips about visiting Lake Louise, including the best time to come, what to know about parking, and how to avoid some of the biggest mistakes many visitors make. Before we begin, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps me continue creating detailed walking tours and travel guides from amazing destinations around the world. Now, let's begin our tour. Before we enjoy the lake, there is one very important thing every visitor should know about Lake Louise and Moraine Lake, and that is access. Lake Louise is beautiful, but it is also extremely popular. In summer, parking near the lakeshore is very limited and can fill very early, sometimes even before sunrise. If the lot is full, you may be turned away. So if you plan to drive, try to come very early in the morning, later in the afternoon, or avoid weekends if possible. But even then, parking is not guaranteed. This is one of the biggest mistakes visitors make. They arrive in the middle of the day, expecting to easily find a parking spot. But if the parking lot is full, you may be turned away and forced to change your plan. For many visitors, the easiest option is to book the Parks Canada Shuttle from the Lake Louise Park and Ride. You can also use private shuttle services or licensed tour operators, which may be a good option if Parks Canada shuttles are sold out, or if you prefer a more flexible schedule. The Parks Canada Shuttle to Lake Louise and Moraine Lake starts from the Lake Louise Park and Ride, located at the Lake Louise Ski Resort, not from downtown Banff. If you are staying in Banff and want public transit, Rome Transit Route 8X is one of the recommended options from Banff to Lake Louise. A Parks Canada shuttle reservation includes your first shuttle from the Park and Ride to either Lake Louise or Moraine Lake, access to the Lake Connector shuttle between the two lakes, your return trip to the Park and Ride, and free parking at the Park and Ride. This is especially important if you also want to visit Moraine Lake, because private vehicles are not allowed on Moraine Lake Road. Visitors must use a shuttle, transit, or a licensed commercial tour operator. Parks Canada also notes that Moraine Lake Road is closed to personal vehicles year-round, with limited exceptions such as accessible placard holders and registered Moraine Lake Lodge guests. So if you dream of seeing both Lake Louise and Moraine Lake in one trip, do not leave transportation to the last minute. For shuttle reservations, Parks Canada releases part of the seats in advance and the rest closer to the travel date. For the 2026 season, reservations open on April 15th at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. 40% of seats are released on launch day, and the remaining 60% are released at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 2 days before departure. For example, if you want to visit on July 16th, the last-minute release would open on July 14th at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Shuttle seats can sell out quickly, so plan ahead, book early, and be ready when last-minute seats are released. Also remember that shuttle tickets do not include your Banff National Park entry fee, so make sure you have a valid park pass if required.
So once you have your upload or your upgoing time, they'll say, here's your time window. At that time.
I didn't think it was a fishing rod.
Well, I'm thinking you canoe and lake, you know. 1 + 1 = fishing.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Not very well.
Now, after all these practical tips, this is why the planning is worth it. Standing here beside Lake Louise, you can understand why this place is one of the most photographed destinations in Canada. The turquoise water, the mountain walls, the glacier in the distance, and the peaceful lakeshore create one of the most iconic views in the Canadian Rockies. Even if the area is busy, Lake Louise still feels special.
Well, yeah, like,
Where'd you go?
going around. Come on.
Just let her take her picture.
Oh yeah, everybody's got to have their chance, right? We'll go real quick. Go stay.
That's coming in.
Nope. No, it's all good.
Este domingo 23.
Yeah, that's this one. It's supposed to be a code. That's probably any even if it's a foot.
What? Okay, ready? That's it.
No rain.
But it's just awesome.
All day.
Yeah, I feel like I feel you.
Yeah, but more than people mix it. Yeah, good.
That was so unexpected. He is like a family and I don't think I've seen him since he's about this old. Like, yeah, that was kind of crazy. I know, I had to get a photo of my mom so that I can send it to her because her and her friend are going to freak out, but yeah, it was my grandpa used to say that and I was always thinking of him love him. Yeah. It's, I mean, he's right, like it does look a contrast, but it's so funny, all the photos of my mom as a kid. You've got her, and she's like running around with like a red flower for all of them, like a red flower. Yeah, I know. I think
Beside the lake is the famous Fairmont Château Lake Louise, one of the most recognizable hotels in the Canadian Rockies. Even if you are not staying here, the outside area is worth seeing. The hotel gives Lake Louise its classic postcard look, wild mountain scenery on one side and historic resort architecture on the other. This area is usually busy with visitors taking photos, walking by the lake, or enjoying food and coffee.
Yeah. That's what, oh yeah, it's too funny. Yeah.
But it was pretty funny.
Nothing that
If you have to ask, then you can't. You're not going to stay here.
Hold it.
Whoa.
The lake gets its bright blue-green color from fine glacial sediment, often called rock flour, carried into the water by melting ice. When sunlight hits the lake, it creates that magical turquoise glow. Even if you have seen many photos of Lake Louise, standing here in person feels completely different. The Lakeshore Trail is one of the easiest and most scenic walks in Banff National Park. You don't need a difficult hike to enjoy this place. Just walking along the edge of the lake gives you beautiful views from different angles. The area near the main viewpoint is usually the busiest, but as you continue along the trail, the crowds often spread out and the walk becomes more peaceful. Every few steps, Lake Louise looks a little different. The water, the mountains, the reflections, and the light all keep changing.
Because something to do with vegetation.
Wait.
Wait, I got Moraine Lake ice.
아빠 니도 하고 빈치는 거 다 멈춰고 기다려 한
Oh, that'll be fantastic. We should.
Oh, we should do that, and the people would travel.
Sí se le ve la cara, pero sí se resuelve.
Esas son las de Chateau.
As we come toward the end of this walk, my advice for visiting Lake Louise is simple. Try to plan ahead. This is one of the most beautiful places in Banff National Park, but it is also one of the busiest. If you can, visit on a weekday and avoid the middle of the day. Early morning usually gives you the calmest experience, and later in the afternoon can also be a good option when some visitors begin to leave. But even then, parking is never guaranteed. So if Lake Louise is an important part of your Banff trip, don't depend only on finding a parking spot. For a less stressful visit, consider booking the Parks Canada Shuttle in advance, especially if you also want to visit Moraine Lake. Lake Louise is absolutely worth visiting, but the experience is much better when you arrive prepared. And when you finally stand here beside this turquoise lake, surrounded by mountains, glaciers, and fresh alpine air, it is easy to understand why so many people dream of seeing this place. Thank you for walking with me around the Lake Louise. If you enjoyed this tour and found it helpful, please like the video, share it with someone planning a trip to Banff, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you have visited Lake Louise before, or is it still on your travel list? Until the next adventure, stay curious.